Kara Walker was born November 26, 1969 in Stockton, California, but raised in Atlanta, Georgia. She followed in her father's footsteps into the world of art. Because of her father's influence, she knew at age 3 that she wanted to be an artist. She received her Bachelor of Fine Arts in Painting and Printmaking from the Atlanta College of Art in 1991 and her Master of Fine Arts also in Painting and Printmaking from the Rhode Island School of Design in 1994. She's had solo exhibits and received other forms of recognition for her work, such as making it onto the Time 100 list made by Time magazine in 2007. According to one Time magazine article, Walker precociously engages both the broad sweep of the big picture and the eloquence of the telling detail. She plays with stereotypes, turning them upside down, spread eagle, and inside out. Platitudes sicken her. She is brave, and her silhouettes throw themselves against the wall and don't blink.
The wrist sew down there was created in 2002 as a subversive silhouette and purchased by FMA Boston 2005. The artist tried to expose the discrimination that African Americans are facing. According to the Google Art, the silhouette was the near-perfect solution to Walker's effort to try and uncover the often sailboat and uncomfortable ways racism and racist and sex stereotype influence and script our everyday lives. For this reason, this painting has no other color except black and white to stand for African American and the whiteness. In this painting, the black figures are oppressed by the white figures. Although some of the dress evokes the antebellum South, the artist rejects what she sees as the South's continued longing for a romanticism past. This longing retains all of this former power in the form of such debased culture manufactures as romance novels, pornographic fantasy, and collectible figurines. Although the figures are detailed, their form and the narrative remain essentially ambiguous. Walker intended her image to be Roseanne's equi, inventing individual viewpoints, experience, and ideas to be promoted by the relationships she designs. Walker expands upon the traditional silhouette, creating figures and a narrative that comfort unsettling and oppressive relationships between individuals, genders, and races.
In 2014, Kara Walker presented A Subtlety or The Marvelous Sugar Baby, an homage to the unpaid and overworked artisans who have refined our sweet taste from the cane field to the kitchen of the New World on the occasion of the demolition of the Domino sugar refining plant. Like most of Kara Walker's work, she gives her work of art a title that is an announcement, and a very ironic one because there's nothing subtle about her work. The location of where the artwork is presented plays a very important role in the piece. The Domino Sugar Factory, once the largest sugar factory in the world back in the 19th century, is located in the neighborhood of Williamsburg, Brooklyn, New York City. A place that is strongly connected with the black workers and even black slavery from the sugarcane. The place where brown sugar was transformed into white sugar. She chose to make statues made of or with the help of sugar. They are then temporal, subject to change in state of dripping, just like the factory itself. Walker elaborates on the subject of the molasses, points out its notion of tradition, poor, down home, sticky, and the difference with white sugar that is good, ease, modern, and a luxury. The main object of her exposition is the Sphinx, who has many symbols. It is powerful, withholding, iconic. It is also emblematic of a rune, similar to the factory that has molasses dripping from its wall. The runes have that effect when we visit them, that they remind us how much potential we hold, how much further we have come. The left hand of the Sphinx is in the formation of a fig fist, formation of the thumb between two fingers, and which has multiple meaning in various cultures. Used in Turkish and Slavic cultures, the fig fist is commonly used to deny a request. Others use it for warding off the evil eye. The Romans would associate it with woman fertility. The back of the statue is also very strong meaning, as her sex is exposed and her behind is lifted up in the position of an offering. This vocalizes availability and other strong repetitive subject of Walker's work, the sexual enslavement and animalization of the black woman's body. Accompanied with the Sphinx were sculpture of boys of about 5 feet tall that are in a posture of servitude, offering goods in their basket. They are strongly stereotyped, with big eyes and apple cheek. Back in the 80s, African Americans were collecting these, signifying Southern hospitality pieces, seen as dehumanizing and derogatory. Kara Walker chose this model for her boy's statue, and unlike the Sphinx, they were made entirely of corn syrup and sugar. So the more the exhibition went on, the more they melt down, suggesting a change in the representation. First, as an offering of food with goods in their basket, then as an offering of human flesh by them melting away. Like too many men and women who offered their labor and their life for the sugar industry. The public had mixed feelings. Some acted inappropriate, posing, making sexual toy of the Sphinx, being disrespectful. Some other poses in front of the Sphinx very proud. Other very serious, as if they were wondering if they were either a culprit, victim, or consumer. No flyers or description were given at the entrance. The audience was left with only their own conclusion. The Sphinx also left the audience in the position of voyeur. People transformed into tiny black shadow beside the gigantic white statue. People could say that the audience was turned into the artist's silhouette figures. With the help of Kara Walker, ephemeral installation, people were then left in this difficult riddle, causing anger, outrage, guilt, shame, wonder, understanding, keeping them engaged and woke.
In 2001, at the Musée des Arts Modernes Grand Duc Jean in Luxembourg, Kara Walker exhibited a 37-foot-wide corner silhouette installation titled Darkytown Rebellion. This piece, like many others Walker has created, used black paper cutouts which were pasted onto the wall and reflected the historical representation of African Americans in American visual and pop culture. This special edition of colorful pattern lights taken from a 1960s liquid light show was projected onto the piece, while psychedelic music played in the background. Darkytown Rebellion portrays scenes of violence and sexual obscenities, hinting at racism and showcasing the visual stereotypes that are linked with how European Americans perceive African American culture. Without providing much interior detail on the silhouettes, it is easy to make out which caricatures hold power and dominance, and which caricatures are being oppressed and exploited. Inspiration for this work was found in a landscape painting book titled American Primitive Painting that featured uneducated artists. An anonymous painting titled Darkytown showcased distorted African American characters that Walker then cut out and put alongside European figures, creating an ominous scene of rebellion. Walker aims for viewers to realize that these stereotyped caricatures of African Americans still resonate today, and that her images are not simply those of the past.
In 1994, Walker exhibited her first cut paper silhouette mural, Gone, an historical romance of a civil war as it occurred between the dusky thighs of one young negress and her heart. It was a tableau that was 50 feet long and 13 feet high. At the time, it was unprecedented in both form and scale, as well as subject matter. Presented like a picturesque artwork in the way of a grand historic painting, Gone has a pre-cinematic touch as it captivates and immerses the audience the way a film might do. The figures, slightly larger than life size, were cut with an X-Acto knife and adhered to the wall to create a panoramic mural reminiscent in scale to the tableaux vivants and cycloramas that gained popularity in the late 18th and early 19th centuries. Two large trees dripping with Spanish moss and evoking the warm climate of the American South frame the idyllic scene, with youthful figures suggesting a fairy tale-like romanticism. However, the piece is a critique of the historic narratives of slavery and the ongoing perpetuation of ethnic stereotypes. The title that Kara Walker chose refers to Margaret Mitchell's 1936 novel Gone with the Wind, a book on the black and white controversy, later adapted into film, that is now absorbed in American popular culture. By the technique of tragicomic, Walker utilizes the representation of sex and violence to underline her idea of a blurred record of the past, to sneer at the nostalgic romanticism that white people use to camouflage the true history of slavery. Walker truly represents the power and oppression that were known in the time of the American Civil War. This piece also alludes to rape, the suggestion of the little African American boy on the left of the tableau, with his white father beside him, the father's sword pointing towards his slave son. This, Walker's first published work, was grandly accepted by the critics, launching her into the art scene and making her one of the youngest artists to succeed in the early 90s. It also made her one of the leading voices on the subject of race and racism.
There was nice white folks while they lasted, says one gal to another, by Kara Walker was first displayed at the American Primitive Show in 2001 at the Brent Sakima Gallery in Chelsea, Manhattan. This was Walker's third solo show in New York. New York Times referred to Walker's work in the show as her best so far in an article published on September 28, 2001. There Was Nice White Folks While They Lasted is set in the antebellum South and is composed of a series of black cutouts against a wall with a steamboat projected as the backdrop. From left to right of the installation, the first silhouette is of a young man with a ship placed on his head. The next three silhouettes are of 19th century African American women. The first woman is waving at the steamboat with a handkerchief in her hand while a malformed baby falls off her back. The next woman stands with deformed hoof-like feet beside a woman holding a bust over her head. In the distance, there is a woman pointing a gun at a man's back and two lovers not noticing the violence behind them. These images are somewhat mysterious because it's not completely clear what some objects are at first glance in the art piece, which I think is what Walker intended. This makes the viewer question the historical or symbolic connection between the characters of the piece and what it's trying to represent. The fact that this installation is made of paper cutouts is also intriguing because craft cutout paper silhouettes were practiced by privileged young women of the 19th century. Since the backdrop of this installation is a projection, it causes the viewer's shadow to become a part of the installation as well. There Was Nice White Folks While They Lasted, Says One Gal to Another was later adopted by the Indianapolis Museum of Art in Indianapolis, Indiana, United States of America.
Kara Walker's piece, The Pool Party of Sardanapalus, after Delacroix and Kienholz, is part of the collection of collage drawings, paintings, and silhouettes Walker made during the summer of 2017 that are currently being displayed at the Sycamore Jenkins and Company in New York City. The piece is made using Sumi ink and collage on paper and adopts the styles of 18th century artist Eugene Delacroix and 20th century Edward Kleinholz. What makes these pieces and other prominent pieces from the exhibit pertinent is that they have sparked a new view of Walker's work. While the topics and styles of her work have not changed much in these pieces, the politics surrounding the time at which she was making these pieces for this showing changed the relevance of her art. Most criticisms and articles on Walker's work talked about her art as if it was commenting majorly on past events from the perspective of past tense. Now that Trump is in power and unwilling to condemn white supremacists, Walker's work has more immediate relevance. This piece is believed to be Walker's response to recent injustices towards black people, such as the black teenage girl who was tackled by a white male police officer at a pool party in 2015, as seen in some bathing suit-clad women in the piece. And this piece is also supposedly commenting on the conflict taking place in Charlottesville. An accompanying piece that kind of builds on the topics addressed in this piece is Christ's Entry to Journalism. This piece is also made using Sumi ink and collage on paper and is also using the same style of art as the previous piece. This piece builds on the pool party piece by calling out recent sufferings more specifically. This time, Walker includes depictions of Trump and the KKK, as well as more gruesome recent examples of crimes against black people, including a police officer striking a black man and a white woman carrying Trayvon Martin's decapitated head on a platter.
The Emancipation Approximation by Kara Walker is a series of 27 silkscreen prints made in 1999. In this series, Walker uses her iconic silhouettes, utilizing the art of black paper cutouts to challenge and ask provocative questions regarding issues of race in America. These graceful black silhouette cutouts captivate the viewer with their minimalistic features, all while bringing to light the impact that black stereotypes have had on distorting the history of black people in America. The title, Emancipation Approximation, is mocking and referencing the Emancipation Proclamation, which is the document that the American president Abraham Lincoln used to abolish slavery in 1863. Walker explains the meaning of the exhibit by stating, "Silhouettes are reductions, and racial stereotypes are also reductions of actual human beings." One of the most notable pieces from this exhibit is the very last silhouette, titled Scene Number 26. In this piece, there is a black silhouette of a white slave-owning woman leaning on a tree stump with an axe beside her. At her feet are the silhouettes of severed heads of several slaves. The most common interpretation of this piece is that the scene is depicting the anger that white slave owners felt after the proclamation. Walker is addressing the fact that although slavery had been abolished, black people were still viewed and treated as inferior. Rather than seeing their slaves live free lives, the previous slave owners would rather have them dead. The severed heads are that of men, children, and women, illustrating how nobody was granted any mercy when it came to the devastating reality of racism, as they all endured the same fate.
In early 2007, Kara Walker's exhibition, My Compliment, My Enemy, My Oppressor, My Love, was unveiled at the Walker Art Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and subsequently traveled to Paris, New York, Los Angeles, and Fort Worth. The collection was a retrospective of Walker's 13-year career and showcased more than 200 of her provocative images. The exhibit included drawings, watercolors, videos, puppetry, and tableaus featuring her signature silhouettes cut from black paper, all coming together to create a visual world for the viewers. An extensive catalog was published to accompany Walker's exhibition and was divided into 6 parts that include essays by scholars and cultural critics on the different topics that are present in Walker's work, such as social, gender, and racial issues, as well as a visual essay by Walker on black suffering, which is comprised of sketches and notes alongside images of black culture appropriated by the media and advertising agencies. The catalog also has 150 images of the artist's work and a complete exhibition history and bibliography. At first glance, the tableaus seem lighthearted and innocent, a nod to childhood picture books with cartoonish figures. Looking closer at the details of these scenes, however, we are confronted with images of deviance and abuse. For her work in this exhibit, Walker explored the corners of the antebellum South to find her characters. She used costume to work not only as a signifier of race and class, but of ethics. Her white characters, dressed in the expensive clothes fashionable in the pre-Civil War era, show a distinct lack of morality, while her black characters wear the tattered clothing of an oppressed people. Although these images appear as exaggerated caricatures, Walker's work extends beyond this to a level of spirituality. A saint-like figure appears across several of her works and is portrayed as a small girl with hair in braids, a little trickster. This negress, with whom Walker identifies, makes her way across the exhibit in many of the different tableaus. Walker, too, has been described as a trickster, a jester, and a cynic, similar to this saint-like negress. In an interview, Walker stated that she wanted to kill the heroine of her stories, this negress, yet at the same time she wanted to be her. This is most evident in Cut, a piece displayed in the exhibition but created by Walker in 1998. In it, a woman has her arms flung into the air, a straight razor in hand, Walker's signature tool, blood escaping her veins in a glorious fountain. The contentious topics covered by Walker's art in this and other exhibits have garnered a myriad of reactions from critics, both positive and negative. Betye Saar, an American artist known for her part in the Black Arts Movement, began a campaign to halt exhibition of Walker's art in 1997, writing and sending more than 200 letters to prominent artists, writers, and politicians. Saar felt that Walker's art was disgusting and propagated a negative image of black culture. Saar was quoted as saying that she felt that the work of Kara Walker was sort of revolting and negative and a form of betrayal to the slaves, particularly women and children, that it was basically for the amusement and the investment of the white art establishment. She wasn't alone in her opinion either. Other voices were heard lamenting what they felt was Walker's mockery of the black community and history. There have been positive reactions to Walker's My Compliment exhibit. The organizers of the show received a letter from a black employee at one of the museums showing the exhibit. He wrote that he felt Walker's artwork was important, but also potentially dangerous and corrupting, because those who experience it are confronted with the reality of how, as he put it, New World Africans were treated over the course of 400 years. He explained that viewing Walker's exhibit forced visitors to bear witness to the atrocities suffered by slaves. What he felt was dangerous about her work was that it was, in his opinion, the responsibility of the artist to illustrate history and at the same time protect us from it. When asked about reactions to her work, Walker stated that she welcomes the dialogue it inspires.